I'm so excited to be here. I would just like to take, before I start, well, first of all, I've got the keys. So let's get into the career car and go for a drive. And what I mean by that, I'm going to be your GPS tonight to get to where you need to go. So sometimes we all have a direction, but sometimes we just need a little bit of some direction of how to get there. A little bit quicker, a little bit faster, and get to our place safe and sound. So without further ado, let's talk about how we do that. So I'd like to just, before I start, I want to know how many kids have graduated that are on here tonight, either this year. So I'd like to congratulate the class of 2020, or maybe there's a class of 2019. Can I get an idea of how many people are on here tonight that are just graduated? Yay! Matthew, way to go. Congratulations. Wow, Maria. Great, congratulations. Well, I bet there are a lot of people here who just graduated. And now you've been, oh, Gwenny, great. You know, and you've been at home going, what the hell just happened? About a few months ago, I had a lot of choices out there, and now I feel like my car has just got off course. It hasn't. It hasn't at all, and I'll tell you why. Because tonight, we're going to talk about how to do a deep dive into your background. Could be from your childhood to the real hood. It's about unearthing and excavating your last 4 years of college. I want to know what you've done sports-wise, extracurriculars, your coursework, your internships, your jobs. This is how we find your story. And it really starts with, and then we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to analyze some of the questions that I'm going to pose to you guys. It's career, it's behavioral, it's psychological, it's your personality, it's your career indicators to keep us in the direction that you want to go. Then we're going to determine the best way to tell your story through your resume. And I'm going to show you some ideas and some concepts of resumes that will brand you, and in-person interviews and how you tell your story through in-person interviews. I'm going to teach you, and we're going to talk about connections and networking and the various network organizations that you may not be familiar with. Because I'll tell you one thing, guys, now it's a different ballgame. It is a new normal, but it's a cool normal because there's tribes and there's communities that you can get involved with that allows you to network more one-on-one rather than a hierarchy. So it's kind of exciting. In addition, I'm going to be introducing Shira Lotzar tonight, who's a LinkedIn specialist, who's going to show you tonight how you go on LinkedIn and look up maybe somebody who's graduated 3 years from you know, you guys, different alumni that you can get in contact with, how you contact them from what we're talking about tonight. And then I want to also talk about the awkward moments that arise and tricks on how to overcome those obstacles during an interview. And more importantly, is projecting the outcome you desire. And let's have some motivational techniques that will hack your brain so when you go in for that interview, you can nail it. So let's start with the to-do list. And Mel, if you'll put that up. So what is, everybody's probably asking, what's a to-do list? What does that like even mean? To-do list is what you've done in your life, what you are most proud of. It could be your GPA. It could be whatever it is. But I want you guys to take the time. I may only put 10 things here, but in the next 5 minutes, as I'm talking, I'd like you to write down, I'm most proud of getting the sorority I wanted. I'm most proud of graduating with a GPA. I'm most proud that I've developed to my school the community, or I've brought a new club in, or whatever it might be. It might be when you were 5 years old and you were so excited to start a lemonade stand that brought money into your community. It's the things in life viscerally, passionately, that you believe that you've done in your life. And you know, during this time you might go, oh God, like I put in all this work. What is it for? It's for a lot of things, and you're going to see moving down the road here as we keep going. So what the to-do list is really just viscerally thinking, these are the things I'm passionate about. These are the things I've always been interested in. So from there, what we want to do is start to look at how we build our story. So how do we build our story? I just want to open this up now to the class, if you will. And I'm going to just throw out some questions. And I want to see how you answer them. So if I was to ask Gwenny, let's say, what are your weaknesses? How would you answer that? Procrastination is a big one. Could we get the voices on? Would that be possible? And so the faces, so that I could see who I'm talking to, if any chance.
Sure. Hi.
Oh, hi, Glenn. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I remember speaking to you at Live Nation.
Yes.
So we talked about procrastination, and this is for everyone. So you're interviewing with me, and I ask you that question: what is your weakness? And you say, you just will say procrastination, or how would you answer that?
I would say that procrastination is definitely something that affects me, but I'm also a very driven person. And even though I may put things off, it will still, anything that I set my mind to will still get done at the end of the day.
Okay, that's a very good answer. But what I want to teach you guys is how to tell a story around a weakness and around procrastination. You know, and I think I've mentioned this before, but Maya Angelou has a quote. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget the way you made them feel.
Love that quote.
What I wanted to, I love that quote too, because it's so true. And when you come in for an interview, when any of you come in for an interview, your job is to tell me your life. Your job is to show me what you're made of, who you are, why I should be hiring you. It's not about the job per se or the interview itself. It's you coming into my office or anybody's office or an interview and showing me who you are by making me feel something about you. So perhaps with that kind of thing, a procrastination thing, you might want to say, you know, early on in my life, I remember throughout school, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I would always procrastinate on you know, things that I would do until one day I procrastinated so much that I wasn't able to finish the job. And I learned from that day forward to set a timer on my clock, or to be able to overcome my procrastination. And from that on, I'm always on time. I'm always able to put out the product prior to the due date.
Okay.
So you always want to turn the weakness into a story idea that shows how you overcame that.
Okay.
Now, what if I was to ask somebody, what are your strengths? If you like, so tell me a little bit about you, Gwen, and anybody else who wants to come on here as well. What would you say is your strengths?
Like I said earlier, I'm a very dedicated person. So like if I'm given a job or a project that needs to get done, it'll get done. In that, I'm also very reliable. I know I'm just like naming a bunch of qualities about me and you don't even know me. So I'd probably have to like come up with, like you said, a story to exemplify all of these qualities in me. So I guess I could tell you I have great leadership skills because I have led, as president, I've led a club for the past 2 years at my college. I'm the president of this music business club, and we organize events related to the music industry and networking for students.
You know what? Now you're getting there. The idea is excellent. You know, my strength is, well, as president, I was voted president of the music thing. And what we did was really cool. And you want to show passion, was really cool. I put on a concert for, I'm just making this up, right? For Coldplay.
We did a benefit concert. So you're right on the money there.
Oh, good. Exactly. You know, we did a benefit concert. We raised this amount of money for the school. I was then voted this, or we brought in Coldplay. I went out after and got, you know, Martin to come and Chris Martin to come and perform. And it was really cool because the benefited somebody that he knew. You know, you could elaborate on the story so that the person sitting here going, oh, they could just picture that. And I'll give you an example. And I don't know if I gave this an example at the Live Nation thing, but this girl that I worked with who was going into the music business,
yes.
She wanted the internship, but this is for everybody on the call. She wanted an internship with Scooter Braun. She just happened to have raised money for Fuck Cancer, which was Scooter Braun's wife's cancer association. I guess she had cancer or something. So by telling that story, that she raised $10,000 for her sorority and brought cancer into the thing because she really believed in all the cancer things, because it dealt with music. He hired her for an internship because he felt it. This was his wife's thing. So
Yeah.
I love the idea of the president thing, but elaborate on that. And as president, I brought in this, and we never had this before. And I was the first person to bring this in. You always want to include the who, what, where, why, and how in every story that you present to me. But if you came to me and said, well, I'd love to tell you about my strength because as president of, that's a very different thing than I do this, and I do that. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if I was to ask somebody, what was the most difficult period in your life and how did you deal with it? And these are all questions, by the way, guys.
You pass this off to someone else.
That every employer, everybody who you're going to be interviewing with will be asking you. So now's your time to write your stories for each of these questions so that then we would get, next week, we're going to get into role playing of how exactly you would execute these questions. So also, if you get somebody, right, and I don't have my phone with me, but you're answering the question, they're like, I'd like the tuna sandwich. You don't go there and go, oh my God, I forgot what she asked. Oh my God, my question wasn't good enough. I can't believe I didn't do that. You're just going, oh, and as I was saying, as president of the company, you're right back into it. You're right back into your story. And she sees, wow, this girl's got it. She didn't lose her cool. She didn't go, oh, what was the question again? Like whatever. It's like, as I was telling you, and you're right back into it. That gives you confidence, and it gives the person you're interviewing with confidence.
Cool.
Because actually in that moment, you're showing her that in whatever job they give you, you would not be rattled by that. They're not going to see you sweat. They're going to see you knowing your stuff and ready to go at it.
Cool.
So is there somebody else that wants to answer what was the most difficult period in your life? Because this is a very pivotal question when you're getting interviewed. This really tells a lot about who you are.
Hey, yeah, I can try and tackle that one.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so for me, I think that the most difficult period of my life is actually 4 years ago before I started university, right at the end, in my grade 12 high school year. I just had a lot of family issues, and essentially the situation was that I had stress from trying to apply for university, but also had a lot of social issues. And so really the difficulty was being stressed with a lot on my plate for like my future and all. And so what I did because of that really difficult time is I leaned more into my friends and my community. I focused more time in my art class. This is where I picked up photography. I also really leaned into my passion for music. And so I met these guys in my high school that played instruments. We ended up forming a band. And that was really my first experience really getting into the music industry and really being able to live my passion. And I think because of that, I learned to be more extroverted. I learned to perform. I learned to collaborate. And so I think even though in probably the darkest, most difficult time of my life so far, I really was able to just rely on a tribe of friends to really support me and propel me forward.
Matthew, that's a fantastic story. That made me feel. And you were into it. Yeah, I could see you kind of reliving that time and how music brought you out of the darkness. And, because I've been in PR and marketing for over 30 years, what I would help you with, because that was a great story, is kind of those sound bites. I go back to, for instance, Just Sam, the girl who just won American Idol. Do you watch American Idol?
I was on the Live Nation call, so I remember this story kind of a little bit.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. But good. So you took some of the things that I said from the Live Nation thing, and you did it. So good for you. Good for you. But exactly, it's our whole life, all pop culture, music, television. It's all about storytelling. So why isn't it that we can't use that medium that everybody's familiar with and bring it into our interviewing skills, which nobody thinks about? Mm-hmm. But I love what you just said. But then as the person who's interviewing you, I'd love to know more. I'd love to go deeper into how that brought you out. You know, in that dark time, I was brought into the light by music. Music now, from there, I've been able to put out an album. I'm just putting this out there, you know. I'm on Spotify. I've built up my revenue, you know, my likes or whatever, followers from 3 to 300,000. Somebody just found me, and now I'm going to be performing at, you know, a club. I don't know, whatever it might be. You get it. But from that story, how did you bring yourself to your personal success now in your life? You know, maybe at college, because you said it was before college. Maybe when you had your band throughout college, you were performing and you were doing charity stuff. Did you do any of that, Matthew?
Yeah, I did. I did do some solo performances. I wasn't able to keep up with it as much. And this is a little bit where I'm like trying to craft my narrative a little bit more now, is like, but what I did do is I focused more time into photography and like photographing shows for underground bands. And so I spent a lot of that time. And so really that kind of drove my passion for media and content and storytelling and supporting other artists in that sense.
That's excellent. That's excellent. That's exactly right. And but I want to hear names. And this guy went on to be this. I really want it deep. I want it deep, but then like focused, like so that it's like 5 minutes. You know, because again, as I was saying to Gwen, you know, if I'm sitting here, I don't want to go, well, who did he play for? Who did he photograph? What did he do? You know, I want you to tell me everything in that like 5 minute thing. But that's excellent. You keep that up. And then let me ask you guys, tell me what one of your proudest moments are. Matthew, you can take it if somebody else wants to come on as well. I want you guys to get an idea of this is what storytelling interviewing is about.
Does anyone want to take it? If not, okay. Well, I was trying to make the to-do list really quickly. So I think for me, number one really was my proudest moment does go back to the story of photographing at concerts. I wish I could put the rock band first, but it's been a little bit of time. But I think it's important that I carried on my interest for music performance and art by really diving into live music and photography kind of on my own. I taught myself photography over the course of the year, and I ended up spending time outside of school late on some evenings, you know, photographing for bands that were signed under like Entertainment One and like other indie labels and RCA Records, Capitol Records. So indie bands such as Arizona, which is doing very well with a couple million followers on Spotify now. And that was my proudest moment, just because it was me reaching out to complete strangers in an industry that was very foreign to me at the time, but I knew that I was just passionate about it. I wanted to develop my skills and, you know, network and meet more people in this industry.
Matthew, that's excellent. What I would advise for you though, of what it is that you want to do, what is it that you want to get into ultimately? What would you want to be interviewing for? What kind of job, career?
Professionally right now, I'd say I want to go into media production or marketing within music entertainment.
Okay. So I'd like you to bring a little bit more into that. Like I love the Spotify thing, but bring some marketing. And from the photos that I did of them, they were able to send that out and got a manager, you know, and then the manager, I'm just making this up, right? But then the manager had called and loved the pictures and felt like I really found their soul. So now I've become their photographer or something like that, to show an interviewer that you're already doing what the job is requiring.
Okay.
Okay. So you want to always bring into your story what it is that the job's requiring.
Okay.
Okay. So, and the to-do list, going back to that to-do list, that's exactly what's going to help. All the things you just talked about, Matthew or Gwen, that you just talked about, when you just start to put it out free flowing, you're going to go, oh my God, I didn't realize I did that. You know, over the course of 4 years of college or whatever, I actually photographed 50 bands. Like, really? Like, you're just going to sit back and go, I didn't even realize I did all that. Because who has taken the time, what I've dubbed, as I said before, is thinkubate. We have not taken the time to really think about what it is you guys have all acquired over the years. And I'm sure you've done a lot, but you just haven't had the time to think about it. Now you can. And that free-floating mind thing, it's the inside-out paradigm, meaning that you're looking inside of yourself. What passions came out of it? What excitement came out of it? What goals came out of it? And that's how you can present to the outside world, instead of how it's been, Matthew and everybody, is you go into a job and you're like sitting there going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. They're so much better than me. They've got so much more experience. How would they want somebody like me? But as you just said, when you come in from that inside out, nothing can touch you. The only thing they can do is say, here, we want to hire you. So these are a little bit, I mean, there's like 35 proprietary questions, but you know, these are mainly the main ones. If you guys could answer these in a question and in a story form, you're halfway there. And it will definitely give you a jump on it to start with. Now let's go into the resume. Is that our next slide? So, and I know we're moving fast because Shira's here and I want her to get into the whole thing about LinkedIn, which is going to be really important. But I think for the music business, again, I'd love to know a little bit more from people, what industries you're going for. But I would say for a music industry, your picture could be very cool to kind of show you're you're a music kind of person. I always like to do with a summary of what you're exactly looking for. You know, I'm looking to get to do this kind of thing. I love skills and strengths because, again, it just shows what you've done, where your skills and strengths are as they apply to the job that you're going after. You know, you got to be really specific. And those are always things you can like kind of switch out. And then for professional experiences, you really want to talk about captured, directed, produced, organized. There's certain words that you always want to use that show that you can take on the position. And I'm going through these very quickly. Of course, your education, as people, all the kids that just graduated, you're going to want to put that on top. For ones that have been out of the job for maybe a year or two, you can put it on the bottom. And then what your volunteering activities are. You know, it really is the kind of thing that they want to see a well-rounded person. They want to see somebody who can step into this role. I'll tell you one thing on the new normal is there's no longer going to be a hierarchy. You will get the position, but just know that you will probably do the position of about 20 people right now. But the great thing is you won't be getting coffee for the next 2 years in the one position. You will be able to be hands-on on a lot of things and move up quicker. And be prepared in a resume, in a cover letter, to be able to show that you are ready to take on those kinds of jobs. And I guess without further ado, maybe Rivka can introduce my guest tonight. And as I quote here, one door opens, then 5 more open. That's how the universe works. And that's why I brought Shira on to show you how the LinkedIn doors can open to your next career.
Thank you, Debra. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Dan, also for inviting me to be here. So LinkedIn is one of my passions. I am a connector at heart, and LinkedIn is all about connecting. So it's, of course, something that I would love. And I do these kinds of trainings all the time. And I actually usually takes me 2 hours, right, to go through everything there is to go through. And even then, right, it's hard to go through everything. And one of the things I want to encourage you about with LinkedIn, you know, we call it social media, and yes, it is, okay? But it's the only kind of social media that is for your professional life. Every other type of social media, yes, could be used professionally, but usually it's really social media, right? It's personal. And this is the only place that you're going to have to really express your professional brand. You know, I'm going to say something that's going to sound kind of dramatic, and I mean to be, but it's really, really true. Okay, here we go. Ready? Professionally speaking, if you are not on LinkedIn, you do not exist.
Yeah.
Can I just put a period at the end of that statement? That's how important LinkedIn is, not only for your job search in terms of reaching out, but also in terms of your ability to be found by the people who need to find you. Whether it's an employer directly who has maybe gotten your resume and wants to look you up, if they don't see that you're there, you literally don't exist. And even though they have a resume from you, at the very least, they're thinking, oh, this person isn't really with it, right? They're not kind of plugged in. You need to have a professional LinkedIn profile. It may be that somebody you're networking with wants to share your profile with another colleague or maybe a hiring manager. You don't have a profile, they can't do that. In fact, sometimes recruiters will actually use your LinkedIn profile in lieu of a resume. That's how powerful it is. 97% of all recruiters use LinkedIn for their searches. And I am a recruiter and a career coach. I do both. So in my recruiter hat, I can tell you, I use it all the time. In fact, right this moment, I'm working on a search, an executive search, and I am using it to find my candidates. In fact, currently all of my candidates come from LinkedIn, every single one of them, right? Because somebody had a profile that was robust enough and had the right keywords that I could find them for what I needed to do for the search. So with that, I need to share my screen, and I'm going to actually start by taking you through some of the aspects of LinkedIn. Now, we don't have very, very long tonight, so this is going to be a little bit of a fire hose, okay? And if you were live in front of me and I could kind of see all your faces, we could do some hand raises in terms of who knows what about LinkedIn. I'm just going to have to go with the assumption that for a lot of you, this is fairly basic, which would be very common actually for a recent college graduate, because most of you could say to me, oh, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, I'm all over it. Maybe not Facebook as much because I know that's for your parents' generation. But LinkedIn, I can pretty much guarantee it's not really in touch with your wheelhouse. So I want to share with you some basics. The very first thing is this: for any of this to work, you must have as many contacts as you possibly can, have as many connections as you can. So in LinkedIn, there are 3 levels of connections. There's your first connection. So in Facebook terminology, you'd call that a friend. But in LinkedIn terminology, they call it a connection. So you have a first level connection. That means you and the person. So Debra and I think we're connected. No, we should be. So we're first level. Yeah, we're first level connected. And then let's say Debra knows Sally Smith, okay? So Debra and Sally are first level, but I'm not connected to Sally, so she's my second level. But then let's say Sally knows John. Debra is not connected to John. I'm not connected to John, but if you connect all the dots, he's my third level connection. Now, I'm not going to know who's in the middle. I'm not going to know who Sally is. But all I'm going to know is that it's a third level. However, here's the cool part, second level. So let's say Debra knows Sally. If I see that Sally is my second level connection, what LinkedIn does is it tells me who are my mutually shared connections. It tells me that there's a Debra there, okay? So that I can reach out to Debra and say, hey, Debra, I want to meet Sally, okay? That's the power of LinkedIn, is the bigger your universe of contacts are, connections are, the more people you can find. If you have very few connections, what's going to happen is every time you do a search on LinkedIn, which is here in the upper left-hand corner, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Every time you do a search, what's going to happen is what LinkedIn is going to say, it's not even going to say the name of the person. It's going to say LinkedIn member. Now, LinkedIn member means it's a fourth level. There actually is no fourth level, but it's as if a fourth level. It's outside of your network. So right now, if you have only, let's say, 50 connections, which, by the way, if you might think 50 is a lot, 50 is not a lot. Well, maybe you do know that because of your other social media platforms, 50 is not a lot. 50 is not a lot here. 500 is the minimum that you should have if you're going to be considered a respectable LinkedIn user. Now, how in the world do you get that when you're only a recent college grad? Well, there are a number of ways. First of all, connect with your friends. Well, first of all, make sure that your friends have a profile. Then connect with your friends. Connect with your parents. Connect with your parents' friends. Connect with your professors. Connect with your internship supervisors. Connect with your colleagues who are internship supervisors. Connect with your friends at the gym. Connect with your the people at the place of worship that you go to. Whatever, you've got more people in your network than you actually realize. All of those people can be LinkedIn connections for you. Now, LinkedIn actually makes that kind of easy because they really want you to build your connection. So here's what you do. You click on this upper tab that says My Network. And right down here, so up here, it's going to show you your invitations. In other words, if somebody actually wants to invite you to connect, that's going to be up here. But the thing down here is, it says people you may know from fill in the blank. Now, I went to the University of Maryland, so number one is giving me my alumni. It's proactively saying to me, please connect. people you may know in similar roles. So it's kind of looking at what do I do in the world and connecting, trying to offer me people that way. People like I'm in the DC area, so people you may know in the DC area, people you may know in my industry, get it? Now, who are these people? Well, here's the thing with LinkedIn. LinkedIn uses what I'll call a birds of a feather concept. Birds of a feather flock together. So their presumption is that if I am first level connected with somebody, then there is definitely more than a chance that I know the person who's connected to the person. So for example, I know Debra, okay? Debra knows Dan. Now I happen to be friends with Dan anyway, but let's just say I didn't know Dan. LinkedIn would assume that if I know Debra and Debra knows Dan, there's more than a likelihood that I might know Dan too, in which case I would say, hey, do you want to connect with Dan? And I might say, oh my gosh, Dan, of course, I should connect with him. But you know what, even if I didn't really know Dan, but Dan is the kind of person I looked at his profile and I said, you know, there's something about his profile that makes me want to connect with him, I could actually reach out. So there's different ways that you can do that. If you are on this page right here, you're going to see Stasia, Eliana, Nancy, all of those people are second levels to me. That's the only people on this page are going to be second levels. So I've got one of two options, okay? If I just want to do sort of the quick and dirty, increase my connections, quick, okay? What I can do is I'm not going to do it right here because I'll tell you why in a second. I can start hitting the connect button all the way through. I can even do that on the LinkedIn app. You go to if you download the app, there's a network button and it'll exact same thing and it says my network and it'll show you these people. If you hit the connect button from this page or from the LinkedIn app page, here's what happens. It will automatically shoot out an invitation to Stasia, for example, okay? Now you might think, oh, that's easy and great and wonderful. Think again, because what's happening is Stasia is going to get what's called a generic invitation. And the generic invitation says to Stasia, I'd like to invite you to join my professional network on LinkedIn. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not personal. So if Stasia doesn't really know me, she's going, she's just maybe spamming me. So if I really wanted to make a thoughtful introduction, here's what I would do. I would not use the connect button from this page, because again, this page will send it straight out. What I would do is I would click on Stasia's name. And I'd open up her profile. Now I click on the connect button here, and what happens? I see this thing called add a note. Fun. I now have, 300 characters to write Stasia a personal note. What in the world am I going to say to Stasia? Well, it depends on who Stasia is, okay? She could be a lot of different people to me. She could be a colleague, right? In which case, hey, no big deal. She's going to know who I am. She might be a friend of a colleague. Well, how in the world do I know that? Well, I go to her page here, and it says here, I have one mutual connection. Now, by the way, you might have one mutual connection, is presuming she's a second level, say second level. I might have one mutual connection. I might have 50 mutual connections. It sort of depends on how much Stasia is in my world. So for example, in my professional life, the industry that I primarily serve is an industry that many people on this call would not even have been aware of. And that's called the association industry. So the National Association of fill in the blank, those kinds of organizations, those nonprofits, they are a whole sector unto themselves. Those are my people. So anytime I come across an association person, chances are I'm a second level to them. And chances are I've got 50 or 100 mutual connections, which makes it really easy if I want to connect with them, because they're going to see we have all these mutual, oh, she's part of my tribe. Okay, I'll accept her in. But even if I wasn't, let's say I wanted to just connect with Stasia. And it's just me, she's an event producer. Looks like I jumped in here, Deborah, you were saying something about the music industry or something. Well, who knows? Maybe there's somebody on this call that has a desire to get into that world, okay? And you see, she's a second level, and you see you have one mutual connection. So you click on the one mutual connection, maybe there's 5, and you see who it is, Catherine. Now, it happens to be that I don't know Catherine well. She's what I would call an open network. I'm an open networker. She might be too. I don't know exactly how we got connected. But let's just say Catherine let's say I was friendly with her. I knew her on some level, enough to actually drop her name, or enough to even ask her to make a recommendation for me. And that's really where you want to go. Especially the people that you are close to in your first levels, those are the people that you can leverage to get to a second level person. So going back here, if there was some reason why I wanted to connect to Stasia, and I actually knew Catherine well enough, okay, what I would I have couple ways to do it. I could either literally just drop her name, and I could say in here in the connect button, right? Hi, Stasia, and then I would say, you and I are connected through Catherine, I forget her last name. Now, do you notice what I didn't say here? I did not say Catherine referred me to you, because she didn't. You and I are connected through Catherine, absolutely legitimate to say. Absolutely fine. That's the proper kind of name dropping. Now, you and I are connected through Catherine so-and-so. And what do you say after that? Well, again, it depends on who you're actually trying to reach out to. So let's just go through a handful of scenarios. So let's say you are wanting to do some informational interviewing in a particular industry. I'm just going to say the fashion industry just because y'all are, I think a lot of you are in New York City, and I know that's a big industry up there. Okay? We have a lot of nonprofits. You guys have a lot of fashion and entertainment. So let's just say you're trying to get into fashion. So you're looking to do informational interviews, which, by the way, is a wonderful, easy way to network. You are in a time of life right now where you're like at the only time of life, really, mostly, unless you're like, you know, all right, mine and Debra's age and you're like career changing. But other than that, this is a great time for you to leverage the informational interview, because more people than you realize are actually open to talking to you, if that's the reason why you want to talk. When I say an informational interview, I'm talking about you wanting to learn firsthand what it's like to either work in that industry and or work in that profession. It could be two different things. So let's say you're going into accounting, that's a profession, okay? You want to know what it's like to be an accountant. You can be an accountant in an accounting firm. You can be an accountant, a corporate accountant, work actually in a regular company and just be in their accounting department. It's two completely different things. But it's another thing to be an accountant in the fashion industry or an accountant in the commercial real estate. That's an industry. So you may want to understand the industry. You might actually want to understand what it's like to be in commercial real estate because you want to get into property management or leasing, or you want to be in financial services and you want to get into wealth management. I mean, there's so many aspects of why you would want to flesh out what your career path could be. Any one of these people in your LinkedIn network could be the ticket to you figuring out what it's actually going to be like. For example, to be an accountant in an accounting firm. Guess what? From January to April, your life is not your own. It is 80 hours a week. I'm just saying. Okay. Now there you are. I'm just giving you a little piece of advice if that's your profession. My point is that you need to go beyond your books. You need to go beyond your degree, and especially those of you who've had internships and you've been fortunate enough to actually work in that industry, it gives you a little bit of a leg up. But if you haven't yet, you've got to talk to the people who've been doing it for a minute to let you know what it's like. That is the easiest thing that you could say. You and I are connected through Catherine so-and-so. I am a newly minted recent grad. You can use that phrase. It's okay. And I'm exploring opportunities within the X sector or Y profession. And
can I ask you a question just to interject for a second, because I'm thinking about Matthew and Gwen and all the kids that are on this chat. If there was a job that they had seen through LinkedIn, this just came up for me, and you were connecting, could you not combine informational with an actual interview to say, dear Stasia, I saw this link and put whatever the job is in her company. You know, we're connected by whoever you just said. You know, is there a possibility that I could speak to you or the powers that be that are hiring for this job? Because I'm, you know, and I would play up you guys, whoever graduated now of 2020, they're saying you're resilient. You're saying this as I'm a class, own it. I'm the class of 2020. Yeah. I'm the resilient ones or whatever. Could you make an introduction?
You totally could. And there's all versions of that. One thing I do need to you need to keep in mind, you only have 300 characters. Right. That's not a lot of words. It's like a couple of sentences.
Do something
like that theme of 2020, you know, and most of you understand, like in the 140 character world, right? So you've got double that. You're truncating. And by the way, don't truncate to the point where you're abbreviating too much. I just have to put that in there. You still need to speak in Gen X and Boomer language, which is not LOLs, okay, or LMAOs or anything like that. You gotta use some full grammar. But that said, yes, class of 2020. There's an opening assistant of such and such, coordinator such and such. Would you be open to, now, could be the Stasia, who is the hiring manager. It could be that Stasia knows
That's
who's
right.
the hiring manager, right? All of those things. And so any ones of those you can say, I've recently applied for the position of X, or I'm thinking of applying for the position of X. Stasia, would you be open to speaking with me about the role? Would you be open to connecting? I'd like to be open to connecting me to so-and-so, right? I noticed you're connected to Debra, right? Who's the hiring manager, okay? Now again, 300 characters, not very much, but you can use the connection invitation to make that request. I do have to give you a little technical note here. Okay, this is important, and you most people would not even really think about this. The thing about the connection button is that what's happening here is you're writing a message, a personal message, but when Stasia gets that invitation, if, by the way, she even sees it, I got to let you know, a lot of people have invitations sitting in their inbox. Like I've got 4 right now, which notice once I opened it, it actually went away and it didn't me anymore. But that could, and if I'm not an active LinkedIn user, I may not actually see it because it can go into my spam and my, but let's just say, oh, let me show it to you. See? Okay, this is great. I literally just got off a call right now where I led a presentation for early career professionals in the tech sector. And this woman right here, Teresa Williams, see how this look just now. Hi, Shira, I enjoyed your presentation to what I do right now, this second, okay? Do you see here a lot of great info, ... If I was going quickly, moving quickly like I typically do and most of us do, and I did not hit see more, I would not know that maybe she has a request for me in there. Maybe she asked to talk to me. Maybe she wanted me to do something for her. I wouldn't know. I just hit accept off my plate. She doesn't know that I don't see her entire message. Okay, so here's what you do about that, because there is a solution. Once Stasia accepts your invitation, hopefully she does. And by the way, if she doesn't right away, don't be surprised, because again, it can take people time. Sometimes they don't see it, but let's just say she does. Here's what you do. You then go, in fact, I'm going to show you a real live situation right now, because like I said, I'm doing a search, and I did some cold outreaches to potential candidates. And I'm just going to be open with you here. And I'm going to show you now messaging, you can only message people that you are first level connected with. So here you go. So here's a woman named Sarah. Okay. So what I did here was, okay, I did a connection invitation. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Okay. I did a connection invitation to Sarah. And I said, Sarah, I'm conducting a search for such and such, blah, blah, blah. Like I wrote, it's 300 characters. I was proper in how I did it. But I had a sneaky feeling Sarah is not necessarily going to read the whole thing. Okay. So once she accepted, then I said, Sarah, thanks for connecting. Here again is the search. And then I wrote a little bit more about, you know, what this thing is, because I then knew that if she then were of a chance of her actually reading what I was writing. My point is you should follow up with a message saying, Stasia, thanks for connecting. I would love to, whatever your ask was, you know, I'd love to have a Zoom call with you or phone call or whatever to talk and remind them what it is exactly that you are looking for, okay? So I want to also be mindful of time, and I know there were a couple of things that Debra wanted me to cover tonight in particular, and one of them is alumni. So alumni can be a very interesting networking tool for you. They can, because it depends on a lot of things. It depends on if that alumni cohort really feels like they're a cohort, right? Like I think Dickinson College, I have a colleague who went there 30 years ago or whatever, and she's like, oh my gosh, to this day, you know, we all Dickinson people, we all talk to each other. Okay, fine. University of Maryland, we have 40,000 students. University of Maryland alumni are like, you know, we're not that connected. Now that doesn't mean that if I were in your position, I shouldn't reach out to my alumni, because you never know who those people are. But you know, you can get some good connections. Just one caveat. So here you go. Here's how you do it. I'm going to put in University of Maryland. And do you see how I didn't even already popped up? So I'm going to click on it. And what comes up here is the University of Maryland's link page. their website. It's their LinkedIn page. And what you do here is you're going to just go down right here. See where it says 154,212 alumni in the Moore area, which is where I live. And then 8,000 alumni have graduated since 94, since when I graduated. So all I got to do is just click on it. Okay. And here they are, all in their glory. Okay. All right. So you can keep on going here, and as you scroll, it'll keep on trucking. Right. And it just pauses and it'll keep on going. So you can really leverage this really well. One of the interesting things about LinkedIn, I have to show you this because I think it's one of the most powerful tools that they have. It's what I lovingly call deep sea fishing into your first level contacts. What do I mean by that? Well, let's just say you have somebody in your network. Could be your parents, could be your parents' friends, could be that professor, all those people I mentioned. Okay, let's just go with Debra right now. So I'm going to pull up Debra. Here we go. We are first level connected. There you are. Okay. Now, do you see here, okay, where it says 500 plus connections? See that? Okay. Now, notice that that is blue. The only way that this technique is going to work, the one that I'm showing you, is if that's blue. If it's blue, that says that I can now deep sea fish into Debra's first level contacts so that I could leverage it for my own network. Now, a couple things here. If it's black, that means that Debra has closed off her connections. Now, that only happens 1% of the time. Most people actually keep it open. The other thing I want to tell you is that when you click on this, you're going to see a whole bunch of people come up. I'm going to show you how to filter the people down, but LinkedIn's a little bit glitchy. What do I mean? Well, let's just say I have no idea actually how many contacts Debra actually has, because you see how it says 500 plus. Even if you have 5,000, LinkedIn will never say 5,000. It'll just say 500 plus. And when you click on this here, in fact, let's just see what it does. So it brought up 146 people, okay? Now, but wait a second. I thought Debra had 500 plus connections. Yeah, this is LinkedIn being glitchy. First of all, LinkedIn will never actually give you in one of these lists, with this particular list, the one where you go into first level contacts, it will never give you more than, I don't know why, 997. Don't ask me why. It's just a weirdness of them. And the other thing is, as you see here, 146, like what? That's just what happens sometimes. But guess what? 146 is better than nothing. And if you know Debra well enough, in fact, here I'm going to just openly suggest that Debra is going to be one of these people that will want to help you and want to help you leverage her network. I know her well enough to know that. That if you can crawl into these names and you find somebody or a handful of somebodies that you really want to connect with, you can reach out to Debra. Now, get this, remember this. This really works best if you know Debra well. Now, I'm just going to say you know Debra well here, even though you've never met her. She's just that kind of person, okay? But going forward, the other laundry list of people that I mentioned, your parents' friends, all those people who really want to help you, your professor, your former boss, your coworker, people are like, yeah, I really want to help you, Sydney, okay? You can leverage that relationship. You've hopefully invested, if you will, some relational capital that you can now make a withdrawal, okay, from that relationship. So you go in here and you see Liz and Ernie and Natalia. All right, what do you do with them? So you're going to want to use what's called the All Filters tab, which is right here, All Filters. And anytime you do a search, you can use the All Filters tab, and you have a whole bunch of different fields. Okay? You're actually not going to need all of them, although see here where you see schools. This is interesting. That's another way to find alumni. And what you're going to do here, you can do different things. Right now, because we went into Debra's LinkedIn, did that deep sea fishing, it already populated this thing called connections of. Now, if you do other kinds of searches where you're not doing deep sea fishing, it'll be blank. But right now it's saying that, just reminding you, you're in Debra's world. And the only people they're going to show you are first and second levels, meaning, let me go back here. So you see here, second. They're first levels to Debra, but they're second levels to me. meaning Debra is at least one of my mutual contacts. Just keep that in mind. So when you go back to all filters, there are some certain things you're going to want to do. For those of you, for example, if say you're in New York City area, well, click on Greater New York City. By the way, if you're in California, or let's see, it says San Francisco, or let's say you're in LA or you're in Chicago, it doesn't show up here necessarily because LinkedIn's only going to show you the first 5 of anything, the first 5 regions, the first 5 industries, the first 5 past companies. But they do have this ad bar, so you could say Chicago, right, and it just pops up Greater Chicago or whatever. Okay, so you can filter that way. I'm going to unclick that right now, and then you can go into industry. Now, industries are really interesting. LinkedIn has a finite set of what they consider to be industries. Now, it's good in the sense that it makes everything consistent. It's not so good in the sense that they don't have every industry in the book. Okay. Now, where in the world do you find LinkedIn's industry list? Let me show you. You go back to your home page, which you can use by clicking on the home here, or you can click on the in. I'm just going to click on in. And now you're going to click on your picture. And every time, by the way, you click on your picture, you come up to your editable page. And you know it's an editable page because it has these little blue pencil marks, which means you can edit every section. And by the way, not for nothing, and I don't have very long, I have to tell you this. There are 2 parts of this profile page that are, well, excuse me, 3 parts that are so important. Your brand that you put up here, whatever you put in that headline, that it has keywords that talk about the kind of work that you're looking for. The about section, which is actually you have up to 2,000 characters, which is about 300 words, to list what you're all about. And so you can actually tell people aspirationally what you want to do. And then down here is your experience section. Your experience section is basically your resume. So cut paste your resume into this experience section. Oh, by the way, 4th thing, have a really professional picture. Not the Facebook or Instagram photo where you're holding, you got your arm over your friend and your arm's cut off. No. You need something actually professional. It doesn't have to be stuffy, but it definitely needs to be professional. Anyway, when you're on this section, on this page rather, click on this very first pencil right there. Now this, in other ways, is where you can, update your headline and your position, right, all this. But right here, industry. If you click on this tab, voila, you see all of LinkedIn's industries, okay, which is very good. So first of all, you should know about this anyway, because it's going to help you to decide what industry you select for yourself in your own profile. But it can also help you to determine what kinds of industries other people in your profession or in your industry have chosen. And I want to make a little caveat to this list. It's not perfect, right? Nothing in LinkedIn is perfect. It's better than not having it, but this is not perfect. Why not? Well, not only because it doesn't have every industry, although it does have a lot, but the other thing is this. A few, well, more than a few, of what they call industries, other people consider professions, like accounting. When they wrote accounting, they meant an accounting firm, but you're an accountant. And so you're going to create in your profile, you're going to click on it because I'm an accountant, or you're in human resources. And so you're going to click on human resources. They mean a human resources consulting firm. But you're like, no, that actually fits me. And they've got one for writing and different ones. I say that because when you're doing a search for people, you've got to be a little detective and think to yourself, how might that other person be describing themselves? What category might they choose? You can only choose one. So which one would they choose? And by the way, some people actually don't fit into any of it. So if you're one of those people, you're going to have to really look hard, because you can't not select something. You have to select an industry in order to have a LinkedIn profile. So you've got to figure that out. Okay. So here you are back in the search. Okay. Let's go back here one more time. Oh, I'm going to go to connections and.
Is there a way, Shira, also that some of these kids can look up like Sony Records, or is there a way?
Thank you. That would be my next thing. Yep. Exactly.
Those kinds of things, find the people out, and then look on my LinkedIn or anybody's LinkedIn to connect that way as well.
Yes. So here's what you do there. So I'm going to go ahead and see where it says 3. I'm going to clear everything here. Okay. I'm going to start a new search. I'm going to go back up here And there, by the way, this search bar, you can do all kinds of things with the search bar. First of all, you can't break it, which is nice. You can do everything you want. But one of the things that you can do, to Deborah's question, is you can do another kind of deep sea fishing into the employees of the company that you want to go into.
Yeah.
So we're going to do Sony right now. Sony.
And everybody in the chat, if you've got any questions,
Yeah.
for sure, we're going to wrap it up and we're going to get into some Q&As. But if there's anything you wanted to look up while we're doing this in a position that you're looking for.
I'm happy to, because remember, this is normally a very long presentation, so I'm trying to just kind of popcorn through.
I'm really trying to get it geared to what you guys are interested in. So
That's right.
will help you.
That's right. So here we go. So Sony pops up. I'm going to click on Sony. And again, this is their page, not their website, but their page. See here where it says, see all 28,000 some odd employees? You click on that. Okay. So it says about 27,000 results. Anyway, now we go back to all filters. And what do we do here? Well, there's a lot of things we can do. We could certainly start by looking in the region. And I'm guessing they do of course have New York City, Greater New York City. Let's just start with that, presuming that that's where you want to work, or that's the part of Sony you want to work in. See, I've already checked off under current company, Sony. By the way, you could do previous companies, previous, meaning it would, if you clicked on Sony for previous, it would also show people who used to work there, which is not a bad thing. That could be helpful. But for now, people who currently work there, you don't really have to do industries. But then what you do want to do is you want to look at the title. Now, by the way, this title bar, also you could do this as a search as well. It's actually the same thing. So let's just say you want to do human resources. Now, by the way, human resources is one of those titles that keeps changing. There's human resources, there's human capital, there's talent acquisition, which is another way of saying recruiting. These titles change. But let's just start with HR for right now, because that's a common thing. And then you would hit apply. And this is going to filter 8 people. Okay. The VP of Human Resources Manager, Senior Director Human Resources, okay? Or maybe I wanted to find the recruiter. So I'd go back down here, and again, I would just say recruiter, or I could do, again, talent acquisition. Well, there's only one there, but maybe, who knows, they're fancy. And talent acquisition is a fancy term. Maybe that's how they describe it.
So they could find the job they're looking for, find Anthony, write to Anthony.
Yes.
Anthony,
yes.
You, Jason, and I are like whatever connected.
Exactly.
I would love to talk to you about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you click on Anthony and you see, right? So he's a coordinator. And so you see there's 3 mutual connections. Pick one that you feel you're closest to. And then you go back and you try to connect with him and say, hi, Anthony. You can do hi, it's okay, especially for somebody at that level. You and I are connected through, XYZ person. There are different things you can say here, but I'm interested in, X kind of role at Sony. I'd welcome an opportunity to, to connect with you.
I saw this job link.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's exactly to connect, or or to learn more about the role, that kind of thing. Now, I will make a practical point here, and this is all fine that you can say anything like this, but do understand, especially if you ever reach out to a recruiter, talent acquisition, the same thing. These people, you think people are busy? Recruiters are busier than a one-arm paper hanger. They don't usually have time, and usually don't make the time for a lot of informational interviews. A hiring manager might, a professional in the field that you're trying to go into might. Recruiters usually not. Now, a recruiter might connect with you just because they want you in their network, especially if you're the kind of person that they generally hire. They want you in their database, which is LinkedIn, so that if they ever have a need for you, they can go find you. But don't get your hopes up if you reach out to an Anthony and want to have a meeting with him, he might make the time, but he might not.
But also, and I think there's a good point, what I would suggest too, and tell me if this is right, Shira, but I graduated from Babson too, or I just graduated now. I'm a college graduate of 2020 from Babson. I wonder if you knew this, and again, you have a small amount of time, but it goes back to the whole storytelling thing. Kind of tell your story. I'm connected to you because we went to Babson. I know this professor. I know you worked at Sony. This girl worked under you, and now
again, limited characters. But if there's anything you can get in there that is actually a connection point, for sure.
Connect.
For sure.
Say everything that you know about this person or their college or where they worked before or who they knew.
Right. I'm a 2020 Babson college grad. Wow. Okay. He's going to perk up.
He's going to look at you beforehand.
Why not?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, because I'm looking at the time and I want to make sure that I'm answering questions. Has anybody put anything in the chat yet?
What if Rivka, do you want to ask the question?
Sure. Yeah, we're getting some great questions here.
Great.
So what if the company, this is from Gwen, what if the company does not have a LinkedIn page?
Okay, the only time that a LinkedIn, okay, let me answer this way. If a company doesn't have a LinkedIn page, it's probably because they're very small.
Yeah.
Because most companies do. If they don't have a LinkedIn page, that's okay. So what you're going to do is you can still put the name of the company in. So for example, I'm going to put Sony in, but I'm not going to, I'm going to, how do I put this? You can, I can't really actually give you an example, but let me just verbalize. You can put the company in, you hit enter. What'll happen is a bunch of people are going to come up. It's not the page that's going to come up. It's just, in fact, I think actually I may be able to do this. I'm going to put Sony and hit enter. Yeah, that worked. Okay, notice I did not click on the name of the company. So pretend that the company you're looking for does not have a LinkedIn page. I just hit enter. And then I want to make sure that these are actually people. So I'm going to click on the people results, the people bar. All these people that come up on the first number of pages all work for Sony. Right. Meaning, even if the company didn't have a LinkedIn page, if all these people worked at the same company, it will still come up because the reason, so watch this, Glenn, the only reason why Sony Electronic comes up is because he put Sony Electronics as his company. So all the people who wrote Sony Electronics, even if Sony Electronics didn't have a didn't have a LinkedIn page, will all come up.
And you know what I would do, Gwen? If in that case, I'm just saying, if it was like an indie company or a startup music company, I would even say something like, I noticed that you don't have a LinkedIn page. I'd love to talk to you about how I can create connections for you and the value added that you could bring to them.
Why
not? And could I speak to you about setting up a LinkedIn page for you and connecting you to the industry that I know so much about, or what have you?
Yeah.
Always bring value added into wherever you're talking about.
That's great.
That could turn into a very positive.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
We have a question from Sydney. I wanted to ask about reaching out to alumni. Can you give another example of what you might say? I went to Barnard, which is awesome because it's all women who are really interested in helping each other out career-wise.
Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing that you would do if you were, oh, sorry, I should go back there. Let me just go to Barnard. That would be great if clicker worked. Okay. Barnard. Am I spelling that correctly? It's isn't it B-A-R-N-A-R-D, or is it, did I spell it incorrectly?
Yeah, no, that's spelled correctly, but I think you might be set under just people.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Let me get back here.
I do this a lot. It's really fun.
It is, isn't it?
I get really nervous about reaching out to people, which is silly, but I just get words twisted up on what I want to say.
I hear you. A lot of people do.
Thing, Sid, is, and again, I go back to, and I went very quickly through
it's Barnard College.
Oh, thank you.
B-A-R, not B. Wait,
it is B-A-R. Oh, here it is, right there. Got it. Okay.
That is exactly, and Shira will go more into this, but Sid, that's exactly the point, is what your ask is. You've got to be very clear about what your ask is.
Yeah.
And what you can bring to them, the reason for wanting to speak with them.
Right. Well, exactly. So I'm going to just click on here because these are the people sort of, in my area. So let's pretend they were in your area. And you're going to need to go through. Now, the thing with alumni is that you might have seen this, they don't actually give you the filter search like you would with other kinds of searches. So in this particular case, you're going to have to go glance through and see, oh, this person's in talent acquisition HR, this person's CFO, this person's a what. you need to, first of all, go after the people who are as close as possible to your industry or your profession of choice, because that's going to be the reason why they're going to want, not that any of these women wouldn't want to help you, okay? But you have even more of a likelihood of them connecting you into their network if what they do in the world is at least first cousin to what you want to do in the world. Then it's a little easier. So for
And what
example,
about the different levels? Do you want to go for some higher up person, or do you want to go for something that's like?
Guess what? There are actually different reasons for different levels. Okay. So for example, if you go to, it's actually all, the answer is yes. It's everything. So you could go, for example, to an executive, a VP, and you're going to that person because you're trying to go to the highest level decision maker. No, it's not like you're trying to become the director right away. You're probably going to have an early career job. But yeah, if you go to somebody who's a VP and you say, look, I'm a recent Barnard grad, and I'm looking to, I aspire to be a fill in the blank profession, or I aspire to get into the XYZ industry. And I wanted to see if you would be open to an informational interview to help me explore whatever it is that you think that they can do for you. Maybe they actually are in the industry or profession you're looking for. Well, that's a direct connect. Hey, I noticed you work in the XYZ industry. I'd love to learn more about how to plug in there. Or maybe, if you get them to actually connect with you, just a regular connection. So for example, here. So this person, she works bath and kitchen buying group. Okay. So for whatever reason, you want to get into purchasing or something, right? You can reach out to her and say, look, I'm really interested in this industry, or maybe I'm looking to get into finance and accounting, and I'm hoping that you can help me. But if she's open to connecting with you, then you can do the deep sea fishing and do what I did with Debra. And all of a sudden, Carolyn is no longer Carolyn. Carolyn is now the window of the world to all of those other people that Carolyn is. So Carolyn doesn't have to be in the industry or profession you're looking at. She could just be a Barnard grad, and you can say, look, would you flat out, hi Carolyn, I'm a recent Barnard grad. Would you be? I'm looking to expand my network, and I know Barnard women are really wonderful connectors. Would you be open to connecting? Absolutely. Boom, she connects. Then the next step is do the deep sea fish into Carolyn's contacts. And you find people in the industry that you want, people in the profession you want, and then you reach out to Carolyn, the messaging a button. It's a, hi Carolyn, you and I connected last week, and I noticed that you are connected to Sally, Mary, Barbara, right? Each of whom could really be an interesting contact for me as I explore entering this profession or this industry. Here's your phraseology, Sydney. Ready?
Yeah.
Carolyn, would you be open to brokering an introduction?
I'm literally typing this.
Yep. Carolyn, would you be open to brokering an introduction?
For me, or you don't say anything else after that?
Brokering, yeah. So brokering introduction means making an e-intro, what other people would say.
And
but
then,
there's two.
Sorry, isn't that the part where you send like a little blurb about yourself?
Yeah. Okay. So you're getting right into my next point.
Sorry, I graduated in 2019, so I'm a little bit ahead of the curve.
That's great. No, this is fantastic. I'm sure other people can learn from you. You should actually help teach this class. And seriously, help people, help other recent grads.
I've known Debra forever, and so I spoke to a couple of her contacts.
Oh, good. That's great.
Oh, good for you, Sid. Glad you're doing it.
I spoke to the people you wanted me to talk to.
Exactly. Good.
That's great. That's great. So here you are, and you can do this two different ways. Okay. Either you can, once you're connected, you can use the message button and just go back and forth, and you can write to her.
Okay.
But here's the thing with that. Carolyn may not be an active LinkedIn user. Right. So she may not even see your message for quite a while. So guess what? Old-fashioned
cold
email. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So now let's go back to Debra, just because Debra's a first level. So let's say Carolyn, Debra. Okay, so I'm first level connected. Here she is. When you are first level connected to somebody, and only if you're first level connected to somebody, you can click on contact info. And then now you can see Debra's email address or Carolyn's email address, whoever it is at your first level. and you go and you send, in this case, Debra an email. Hi, Debra. You and I recently connected. And then, yes, I noticed you're connected to these couple, 3 people, and I'm looking to, to explore, to have some informational interviews with these folks. Would you consider brokering an introduction attached as my resume? Here is my LinkedIn URL. Grab your LinkedIn URL and send it. And you can even say, would you consider brokering an introduction and copying me when you do? Then all Debra in this case has to do is hit forward, write to Barbara. Hi, Barbara, please meet Sid, great recent grad, da-da-da, and CC you. And then you can do the follow-up note. Hi, Barbara. Thanks, Deb. Yeah. Hi, Barbara. Nice to meet you. And by the way, in networking, it's important so that you're not spamming somebody's inbox. Thanks, Debra. In parentheses, moved to BCC.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Always do move to BCC. Put them in BCC, and then you can have your conversation with Barbara, and Debra's out of the loop.
You write in parentheses move to BCC, or you move them to BCC?
Both.
Oh, you actually.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't write it unless you're doing it.
Okay.
So you say, thanks, comma, Debra, period, or exclamation point, or whatever. And then right next to it, in parens, capital M, moved to BCC, close parens, move Debra to BCC, and then you can.
And I'm going to add one more thing to that. And again, it goes back to your story. For Sid or for anyone else, Sid works at Hearst Corporation. I would find the people and whoever you're looking for, Barnard, who have worked at Hearst. So again, that connectiveness. Hi, I know in 2005, you were doing sales at Hearst. I'm currently doing that. Now you're here. I would like to explore, and everything that Shira just said. Connect, you guys. Find that thing that puts you in front of that person in a way that they feel like they'd want to help you. Wow, I remember when I did sales at Hearst. Look at this girl. She graduated from where I graduated from. She's doing sales like I did before I became CEO of like wherever. Of course I'm going to help her because I was in her shoes. So again, you guys, it goes back to finding that connection. That's a huge game changer.
Huge.
In every goal with alumni, right?
Huh?
That's the goal with alumni, is that you really are connecting with them on a different level because you've shared the experience.
But going back to what Shira said, Sydney, too, is deep sea fishing, just like I'm saying about your story, excavating. It's digging deep. Not only that they're connected by school, but did they do what you're doing now? What year did they do it in? What are they doing now? It just could be that one thing that goes, hey, wow, that just brought me back. I remember when I got to talk to this girl.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. One quick thing I want to show you on a technical level, and Debra, I'm going to call you out on this.
Oh, I know. I'm sure. I know. Go ahead. Do it.
So do you see how Debra's profile, her LinkedIn profile, has all this like gobbledygook at the end? All y'all do as well, unless you change it, okay? So you need a clean LinkedIn URL. Let me show you quickly how to do that. Go back to your homepage.
I got a dirty LinkedIn page.
Yeah.
My aunt told me to change mine like a year ago.
Click on your picture. And up here, it says edit public profile and URL.
Yeah.
Then edit your custom URL. Click on this pencil. Now mine's already cleaned up, but yours will probably have all that gobbledygook. Just take it away. Okay. Hopefully you can get your first name, last name. If you can't get your first name, last name, do first name dash last name. If you can't get that, first name dash middle initial dash last name. If you can't get any of that, which you should be, once you put your middle initial and you probably get it. Otherwise, just do like 01, right? But try to keep it your name, if at all possible.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. And Rivka, you have some other questions?
Yes.
And actually, before you do that, I am making like a biggest faux pas here. I did not bring my cord to my computer. I have got to go get my cord. I'm sorry. I'm about to literally lose juice. So I will step away. Just
Shira, no worries. Go ahead, Rivka.
Okay,
Maybe
so this is from Maria Nicholas. I have interest, she says, thank you. This is awesome, all these tips. And I have interest in finding a recent grad internship or entry-level experience abroad. How would one go about connecting with companies, professionals through the language barrier with no connections, education in common to leverage the message?
Well, I'd have to know more about what exactly she's looking for, but I would look up companies in the various, like London or Italy, wherever. First of all, with all due respect right now, that would be very difficult considering that there's sanctions on travel. So we have to get kind of a reality check of what's happening. Perhaps they need people that are working from home. It really would depend on what she's doing. But again, looking up, I want a job to do in marketing. What does that say, Rivka?
It says marketing, grad internship or entry-level experience abroad.
Okay.
It doesn't, Maria, would you be able to give us more specifics?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Sorry. I want to do marketing, international marketing in France, but definitely it's hard now, but possible in the future.
Correct. Okay, so I have a great idea. I would find a company, and I did this. I would find companies that have a Paris affiliate here in the United States. It's an international company. I find an international company that's maybe their flagship or they're based in Paris, but that they have offices here. And I would go through that way, either through LinkedIn or trying to find the person that is heading up whatever it is, the marketing thing. I don't know if she speaks French. Again, these things are very important, or she lived in France, or she did an internship in France. You want to bring that into the fold, into your story. But that is how you could make your intro into that. But for right now, I would just look up marketing companies that are based in France, and whatever value you bring, whether you speak in French or whatever, to that company.
Wonderful. That's awesome. And I have something here from Matthew. What if the individual is an influencer on LinkedIn? Any suggestions on how to get their attention, assuming they likely won't check their messages?
An influencer? It's going to be tough. I mean, I don't have an easy answer for that, because influencers are by their very nature swamped, right? That literally means they have, more context they can shake a stick at. What I will suggest, though, is if you are, first of all, follow them, okay, anyway. But an influencer is really, is often about thought leadership. If you have something interesting and meaningful to say, you can use LinkedIn to say it, okay? So there is, of course, here, there's 2 areas that you want to look at, and actually 3 areas. There's start a post, so you can actually post something yourself. You can write an article. An article literally means a blog. But the interesting thing that you can do, right? You can find that influencer's thought leadership and simply forward it and do a little comment. And if you are constantly doing that, it is possible that their social media person is looking and seeing who's doing the forwarding and go, oh, this is an interesting person. So it's more likely, if you actually do reach out to them after you've done that a bunch of times, maybe they will say, oh, okay, yeah, this person's legit and happy to connect with them. But that's like, it's a rare thing, but you'd have to be very intentional in showing that you're a real groupie.
And I would also add to that, Matthew, because he was on before, with all the photography that you've done, I would do like a CV. I would make sure that you've got a website with all the pictures of all the indie, performers that you've been with, and really, again, bring that value. Like, look at all the people that I kind of discovered through my photography, who've been discovered through my photography, who's now my images are being used on Spotify or all the platforms kind of thing. And talk to the influencers about that. Do you have any new people? Or, I'd love to shoot you and bring, followers. I got this many followers. Always bring value added from what you've done so far. You guys, whatever you've done in your world so far is of value, and make sure that you own that. Do not sit back and go, well, I haven't shot Paul McCartney, or I haven't done this, or I haven't worked in magazines for a long time. Whatever you've done is worthy. If you
absolutely, any impact you've made.
And I'll tell you something, more than ever in this new normal, this is your time, because startups and starting your own thing and speaking your voice is what all of these people, want to hear from now.
And there's one more thing I want to share, and then I actually do have to jump off. I'm so sorry. It's recommendations.
Yeah.
Not a light thing. A very important thing on your profile. And I'm not talking about endorsements. Endorsements are actually not worth their weight in salt. Because when people, bless you, Sydney, because when people, because when
on mute.
it doesn't matter, I saw it.
And you're home, so I'm not worried.
I'm good. I don't have corona.
Okay.
So when people endorse you for things, they're people endorse people for things that they don't even do. So don't worry about endorsements. Recommendations are a big deal. So to do recommendation, you have to go to your first level contacts. Okay, so you can't do a second level, it has to be first. You go to Debra, for example, right? So let's say she was a hiring manager. It really should be somebody who has worked with you. Yeah. Technically, it could be your professor. Could be. But particularly if you did like a capstone project or like something where they saw your work, not just your schoolwork, but a hiring manager, somebody a colleague even.
You guys have done your extracurriculars.
Yeah. But it's volunteer work, whatever work, but work. Okay. You go to the person's first level, you click on more, request a recommendation. It gives you 2 fields here. Select your relationship. Debra was my something, whatever she was. Your position at the time, whatever that was. Next. Now, this is the important part. It's not enough to go with what LinkedIn's standard messaging here is. No. Okay. Nothing wrong with this, but there's not a whole lot right with this either, because it's not personal. It's not personal. It doesn't tell the person what you want them to write. It's just bleh. So here's what you do. Write that person an email or call them. Connect with them. Because if there's somebody you're asking for a recommendation from, well, chances are you have a relationship with them. So like reach out for real. Have a talk or have an email. And say, hey, I'm looking to top grade my LinkedIn. Would love to get a recommendation from you. Would that be okay? Of course, they're going to say yes. But that's not really why you're calling them. You need to share with them aspirationally what you want to be doing.
Right.
You also want them to know your superpowers. You want them to know how your brand, how do you want to be seen in the market? Okay. So for somebody like me, I'm a connector. I mean, that's just kind of my thing. Dan Schneider on this call, he's a connector of connectors. Right. Okay, so that's part of our action. And literally, it is part of our brand. People know that we love to connect people to people. And seriously, that actually is a thing for us. That's right. There are other people who want to be known as master project managers or want to be known as, great operations people, or maybe there's some soft skills that a person has that they want to come into play, that they are great with teams or they're really organized or whatever. The point is, whatever your brand is, you need to share that with the person you want to recommend you. You could just share it. You could write your about section first, and in your about section, you put wonderful things about yourself and share that about section with that person and say, look at my about section. You might even, if they want you to, you can actually draft the recommendation for them. Nothing wrong with that. As long as they approve it, it's perfectly fine. You can ghostwrite it for them. Either which way, do it offline first, or rather do it outside of LinkedIn first. Then when they agree to do it, then you come back here and say, hi, Debra.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for agreeing, right, to write a recommendation, blah, blah, blah. Just friendly reminder, you're going to be talking about blah, 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 blah. Then you hit send. And there's one last thing I'm going to say, and then I got to jump off. When Debra gets it, she writes it. It comes back to you. There are 2 things that you need to do in order for this LinkedIn recommendation to show up on your profile, right? Number 1, you need to accept it. Number 2, you need to show it.
Yep.
If you accept it and don't show it, it'll sit in your archives. A lot of people just don't realize that. Now, you don't actually have to accept it right away. It says edit, so you could send it back to Debra and say, hey, could you edit this thing? But once it's finalized, accept it and show it.
Go ahead.
Okay? And by the way, I'm an open networker on LinkedIn, so I'm going to show you my profile, and you are certainly welcome to connect with me.
Shira, do you have more videos like this of just?
Yes, thank you. Yes. I'm totally going to mention that. Yes, so first I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to put let me just stop sharing for a second here.
And I really love that idea of recommendations, you guys. I've reached out to teachers, as I said, internship people, and that's something during this time still, when people are still working out of the house, to get as many as you can that relate back to what you are doing.
Yes, yes.
That's a great way of getting your foot in the door too.
Yes. So I just put my LinkedIn profile in the chat box. Can you see me have just switched my screen to my company? Did that happen or not?
No.
Didn't happen. Okay, so I'm going to share right now.
You can
Okay, so if you want another video of the longer version, the 2-hour version of what I just gave you guys, go to my company, which is purposefulhire.com, and grab that, purposefulhire.com. You're going to go under the job seeker tab, go under Shira Speaks to Job Seekers, and down here, right here, using LinkedIn like a pro. Okay, if you click on that, this is a live presentation I gave here at a job seeker group locally, and it's recent. It's like several months ago, or pre-COVID, but like the end of last year, I think. Okay, so thank you for asking that.
Shira, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Today.
You're welcome, everyone.
You are the best, and I hope that everybody got so much information from you. I know that I have, and I just thank you for being a friend and a colleague, and I'll be reaching out to you.
My pleasure, Deborah. Good to see you. Good to see you, Dan. Bye, Sydney. Bye, Rivka.
Thank you so
Libby,
much.
Melanie, Matthew, Maria.
Have a good night.
Everybody, okay? Have a
Thank you,
great
Shira.
day. Be blessed.
Thank you so much for everything.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
That was
Okay.
excellent.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Is there anything else before we wrap up any other questions that anybody has?
We had one question from Sydney that
Okay.
we have time. I know it's already 9. So I can also pose it here, and we could bring it back next week, depending on what you think, Deborah, but it's a good one. In terms of once you get that information interview or phone call, are there any super key questions to ask, such as how did you get to where you are, etc.?
Absolutely, Sid. What I would do if I've gotten the informational interview, I would Google the hell out of the person, to be honest with you. I would Google them. I'd go on their LinkedIn. I would look at any YouTube videos that they have. And from that, I would get questions, because they're going to have stories. And you want to relate back to, I found it so interesting. I looked up a YouTube video that you did. And in 1989, you were suffering from anxiety. I'm just putting this out here. I too suffered from anxiety, but like you, I did that. How did you, now you're CEO of this company. What tools have you used to overcome that? Personalize it. Don't just come up with questions. So how did you get there? What did you do? What did you do? Again, you guys, get in, find out who the people are, who you're talking to. Pretend you are interviewing for Rolling Stone magazine. Pretend like when you see things like interviews, Howard says, what pop culture is. Become that pop culture professional. Even if you got to fake it to make it, you come across like that, instantly people are going to go, wow, they did their homework. Wow, I don't even remember that. Or I'm glad that she brought that up. This girl knows what she's doing. This is somebody I'd want for my company to do research or what have you. It's a way to show up in the most unexpected way. And that's what makes the difference.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Deborah. I know this has been an amazing night, and thank you all for being here. This was a great turnout. You guys brought incredible questions, and we'll see you next Tuesday for part 3. And in between, we will be getting you the videos that you can review as well, because I know there was a lot of information Shira gave, and we're all going to want to look back on that.
And Rivka, I just want to add one other thing to everybody. So next week, I just want to let you know, we're going to go more into, I'd love some feedback on your to-do list, on some questions that questions that you've answered, so that we can delve a little bit more into the stories. And then next week, I'm going to have DeMarco White, who worked at Live Nation, who's going to impart his story on how he became what he is and what kind of people. I want to show you guys what the actual people who may be hiring you are looking for from the mouth. I also have Ted Candela from Merrill Lynch. And the following week, I'm going to have Mike Miles, who's a digital marketing person who's done things for Sony and the Grammy Awards. So again, I want you guys to get a full-on idea of what the people you may be trying to talk to, the connections you can make. So we'll talk a lot about that too next week.
And it's not too late if anyone wants to invite friends. They can certainly catch up because this is such a great resource. So just, you can send them my email and I will sign them up. And Dan just also pointed out in the chat, if you want the PowerPoint from these, you can email Debra at her email address, info@YourCareerDesignLab.com.
And also, I just want to add, because of doing this, I am also offering half-hour free consultations. So again, with the stories you're writing, if you have just a quick question or a way to like put your story together a little bit more in depth, it's a little more challenging to do it on this kind of format, I'd be happy at info to just write me and say, I have a few questions of what you post. Could I call you? Could I contact you? I will be happy to do that for you.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you
all.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful night.
Bye guys. Be safe. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.